to the Dream Killers Podcast. This is our second installment. Good to have you here. Tonight we are missing Josh, which is one of our other beautiful hosts. But we have Kua.
Yo.
We have Daniel Balto.
Hey, thanks.
And we have Sean Spillman here.
Happy to be here.
Hanging out. So just to get into it first, we have our two guests, obviously. The two of you are very key on the car scene. Love what you do. Love all the stuff that you do. And it's very important to everybody out there to know who you are behind the scenes, because a lot of times they might not see you during the shows. So good to have you here on the show. It's a good time.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's a good time. But first of all, I wanted to introduce Daniel Balto. The big thing that you do is MNCC, making sure that all the groups to come together and become a real big scene for everybody to help out the user experience. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So we started about 4 years ago, kind of, wanting to be something bigger and better, knowing that if all clubs, pooled their resources and worked together towards something bigger and better, that we truly could be. And, in the short 4 years, I think we've definitely accomplished that goal and then some. But honestly, it's thanks to every single, club that makes up this sort of United Nations of car clubs that really has helped us get there.
That's a key word right there.
Absolutely. Legally speaking, we're a 501c3 nonprofit with a focus on education. So the way that we do that is we host our monthly do-it-yourself garage seminars. Sometimes they're in the form of renting out a shop and, just wrenching on cars for an afternoon. Other days it's, track events, whether it's at DCTC or, frozen lakes in the winter. And then, as you guys know, this last Sunday, we had, rap classes with Platinum Auto Raps as well. So.
Which was pretty cool. Well, we were over there in the facility, their new facility over there. It's a pretty nice spot.
Oh, yeah.
A lot more room than their old one. I mean, you guys have been to their old spot?
Yes.
It was pretty cramped, but they got their work done and they kind of expanded out. What great opportunity for people to go and learn how to do things. A lot of people want to wrap, their mirrors or, getting away from the whole plastic up scene, but going into I wrapped my whole car and I got to say it was hard. And if I would have had a class like that ahead of time, maybe I would have learned and made less mistakes.
I think that one of the big things too is it's about them learning, but also not just how to wrap, but the work that goes into wrapping a car, because I don't think that a lot of people understand the fact that everything is customly done. You can't just do it in an hour or two. It takes a lot of time to perfect. So it just goes to show, and it shows other people out there that these guys dedicate a lot of time to perfect what they do. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's where those seminars, and that's where not seminars. What would you call them?
Yeah, no, they are
seminars?
Definitely educational seminars.
But that's where that comes into play, man. I mean, letting people learn. You do the Turbo Tim one too, right?
Yep.
So over at Turbo Tim's, you got maybe learn how to fix a couple things in the car. I haven't seen any of those, but people talk highly of being over at that spot.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of different stuff. It's as simple as someone doing a winter tire changeover, or maybe a coilover install.
Sure.
All the way to we've seen people do timing belts, radiator replacements, rear end, fixing and axle replacements and stuff like that.
So you're saying I should spend most of my time at these seminars with my car to get everything done? Okay, I'm into it.
Hey, we got the lifts for it.
There. That's great, man. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
I'd argue that's the hardest part of any DIY project. Is just having a lift is a game changer.
So you need to find people or know people that have lifts, which is key. I'm not going to point anybody out. But no, it's good. So I want to move into talking about you've been building this app, and it's soon to debut, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Carmunity.
So, yeah, I've worked on Carmunity ever since I started MNCC, actually. They both sort of branched out of the same group and idea, which was Incarnation back in the day.
Nice.
So, wanted to go with something that was a little bit better branding, a little bit more, the best brands are ones that explain exactly what they do, right?
True.
Mm-hmm. And so with that Carmunity, the car community, and, to name an app, something like that, well, you got to hope that the app does exactly that. And that's what it does. So, the core features of it are basically to bring you to all of the events in your area, to connect you with all the other users in your area.
Yep.
And, also to connect you with any businesses in your area. So,
Yeah, it was pretty good. Like I was looking at the app, kind of going, all right, if I was out cruising at night, I could see who my initial friends were, where they were on a map. And then I could also see other potential users and even meetups and hangouts and stuff like that, all just from having something in my pocket, which back in the day, we never had any of that. And we still don't have anything like that. You just kind of like roll the dice and say, I heard people are hanging over at Sun Foods. Or, and you're trying to go find it. But you could actually, that might have been a bunch of teenagers where I'm looking for people more my speed than somebody with the faster cars and something like that. You can find them with the app.
Yeah, although just know that's only the publicly visible ones. Of course, people will still hold private events, which will more or less be invite only.
Well, I think it's great.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's doing something that a lot of other people aren't even trying to go for. But this is a giant leap for any community. It's not where we're at, but globally. So hats off to you for working so hard for that, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a beautiful thing.
Yeah, greatly appreciated. Hopefully, May 2020 should be when it drops. So.
Oh, I'm in. I'm ready to rock. So moving over to Sean Spillman, WISEGUYS.
How's it going?
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming out, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. This is like a long time coming. I feel like I've hung out with you at shows and even at your house and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but having you here on the hanging out over at my place is beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. I'm happy to be here.
Cool, man. So what do you guys do with the WISEGUYS stuff?
So WISEGUYS Culture, we are a clothing brand that gets involved heavily with the car community.
Oh, yeah.
But we also do a lot outside of the car community when it comes to getting involved with breakdancing events, charity events. We've done, music events. We have DJs that, we work with that are out on the West Coast. We have stuff going on out on the East Coast. So we try to get involved with a lot of things, just that brings the community together, whether it's through dancing, music, cars. We have bodybuilders that wear our stuff for competitions.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just, we just try to get involved with everything that we can. That's, anything active that, uplifts people,
Agreed on that.
So, so that's what we're all about. And we do, a lot with charities. Our first event last year, all of the proceeds went to the Non-Hodgkin's Lymphoma Research Foundation.
Was that one at... was that over at the brewery?
Yes, that was at the brewery.
That was a great show. There's a trophy from it right over there.
Oh, yeah.
Hey.
There we go.
Very cool.
So we do that. We've done a lot with the Wounded Warriors projects.
Cool.
We've done a lot to help people with medical bills, help pay for medical bills. So we're all about just giving back and just like I said, just really uplifting people and meeting new people and just really bringing the community together. So
Dude,
that's what the whole brand's about.
But here's a beautiful thing about having both of you in the room.
Sure.
The great part about this is you guys come from different sides of putting on shows or working with shows.
Yeah.
So, first off, you do stuff to enhance the community of things. And it works with the user like that. And Sean, you come from a different aspect of putting on shows to have like this experience to help drive sales and so forth, right?
And also to give back.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Just
of
really
course.
bring people together. Yeah.
Which is the absolute right way to push through with it. But it's this nice, it's this nice thing to see different perspectives on and making great shows. Like, you can't just go out there and get a bunch of people in a parking lot and call it a show. You can't. So I've been wanting to talk about this topic forever. So meets versus shows. You can't just tell people on Facebook to go to an empty parking lot and just get your cars together. Nobody paid for that lot. There's no permits pulled. There's no, anything. You're just going to show up.
Never ends well.
No, it never ends well.
It's always hectic.
But you guys go through all the regulations, all the steps, all the jumps, the loopholes, and everything to put on an experience.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel about meets in general? Like how do you feel about them? Like when people are just throwing them and they starting fires, basically?
Well, I don't think that there's anything wrong with holding a meet.
Sure.
As long as the people are respectful. Because, like what I was talking to you earlier before the show, when we were coming up in high school, all we had was Midway on a Friday and Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd get kicked out of Sun Foods, and we'd go to Sears. Then from Sears, and we would drive down 280 to Holiday. And then from there, so it's just like, that's just how it was. And to be honest with you, nowadays, it's not that bad. The cops, I feel like, or the police, however they want to be called. But, as long as you're being respectful, I think that they can tolerate certain things that you do, as long as it's maybe not an area where the owner is complaining, like, hey, I don't want these people there. But, I've ran into instances where I'm at meets and cops come up and they're like, hey, what are you guys doing? It's like, oh, we're just here, hanging out. It's like, hey, as long as you don't cause any problems, no one's burning out, no one's revving their engines, loud music, you guys are fine to stay. So I honestly don't think that there's anything wrong with meets.
Sure.
I think that that's how the whole car culture started.
Sure.
And it's awesome that it's turned into something where, we have a show almost every weekend. Sometimes we have 2 shows on one Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really evolved into something great, as long as people, can respect the space and be grown up enough to not get in trouble. To root for everyone else. Yeah.
Respecting the space is key with that.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about him?
Yeah, I mean, he covered most of the points, I'd say, and I completely agree with all of them. In addition, I've had a chance to talk to both, Minneapolis Police Department officers and also St. Paul PD, just through the nature of my shows as well and having to contract and have them out there. And, 9 times out of 10, whether it's, a public space or a private space, as long as you have permission to be there, that's all they really care about. And then beyond that, it's literally just, are they doing anything that would cause any sort of issue with public safety?
Sure.
If yes, they crack down on it and they try to remove the troublemakers whenever possible. If not, you're good to go for the most part. So.
And cool, you've been to a lot of controlled events because with Drive Cartel.
Oh yeah.
Put on, but all of that is pre-set up.
Yeah.
I mean, the space. It's not like just people are rolling in. The cars are regulated to how many and everything like that. But how do you feel about? How do you feel about meets that just kind of, throw it together? And
I know that this is probably maybe 3 to 4 meets once the snow's all gone.
Sure.
But being into those meets, I think it's just super random and kind of random. The ones that I go to are just pretty random. I feel like the meets are more, I guess it's everyone kind of hangs out with themselves versus the shows where it's kind of everyone kind of meets up and talks about their own cars. That's what I feel like. But with the meets, it's kind of it's always, it's always going to be questionable because you always have those people that want to show off, want to do a burnouts, and then it kind of ruins it for everybody, which kind of sucks. I mean, with the shows, it's kind of it's much more enforced, I feel unless, where we have our car shows, it's kind of I've seen someone do burnouts in the parking lots, but we just don't know about it. But whereas in the meets, it's the person that wants to do a burnout, they want to do it in front of everybody. For some odd reason, but...
Oh, you haven't lived until you've seen a monster truck do donuts throwing rocks everywhere.
I heard that.
Yes,
Oh,
that's a thing. We got to talk about that in a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
That's a crazy one right there. But, so I'll just throw in my little thing about it. I feel like there's so much effort goes into shows that are organized and put together. And I do feel that they're a little bit from the people that just do meets and just put them together for the clubs and stuff. They get tarnished a bit because with meets, and I was part of a car club that, I don't know, people would do burnouts and takeoffs and as loud as they possibly can be when they left all the time, and the cops would roll through and say no more. And then we were doing so good, keeping it at bay, did an opener, and people thought they can do the same thing. And they just did burnouts, revving their engines. Then the whole community said no more. And it's happened to a couple larger clubs where they can no longer throw shows because they're no longer wanted in certain parts of the city because of users feeling like it was okay for them to go up and above. But so that meet aspect got brought over to the big show when it was supposed to be communal and fun and an experience. And they felt like they could just bring that same burnout rev engine mentality, and it's made it difficult for those clubs to carry on. And the meet, people feel like that's okay. And it's still like, but with meets, you don't have the entertainment value. Usually you don't have any performances. I mean, like, you're not going to go to a meet and see breakdancers like you had on your show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Try to change it up, you know. Like I said, we try to get, you know, I think I was talking to you about this. What was it, Sunday or Saturday? Saturday. You know, I feel like there's a lot of, I didn't know about how cool the car scene was until maybe like 9th, 10th grade when I kind of started getting my license. But then I hung out with people that introduced me. And like I was saying, you know, it would be awesome where, you know, you host a show that maybe is not designated 100% towards a show, but you have other things going on that draws other people in the community in because, oh, they have this going on, they have that going on. And then they see the cars, and then the kids are like, wow, the cars are cool. And then it's like, now they're hooked. And then that's where you get the next generation coming up. But that's, you know, and so that's what we try to bring to the table when it comes to just, you know, mixing things up a little bit to get other people to come out to see certain things and to grow, really.
Yeah. Well, this leads me to a really great next topic, the Great Divide. There we go. Oh, I went too far. Doing too far. So, old versus new. Young people coming in and the old people being out here. These people have to learn how to become part of this thing as they're, you know, as the people before them did. So, at what point, and on the screen is 2 Mustangs, an old one and a new one. How does one person get grandfathered into becoming a car person and doing car show stuff with vehicles? Because we have a split right now in the community where the old school cats, and my father is one of the people that I can that has expressed to me many times, his car club doesn't know how they're going to add new members because their members are eventually going to die.
Yep.
How do you bridge people that are in the new school of car people to come over to that, and how does that transition take place? This is a hard one to figure out.
It's a special breed of people, though.
Yeah.
You know, because to be honest with you, it's like anything in life. Everything is always evolving.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So, you know, you're gonna have that. It's a special breed of people. So you're gonna have a breed of younger generations that love the classics, but you know that might be 15-20%, you know, so, you know, eventually there's going to have to be something that happens where, you know, and that's the one thing, like with a lot of shows and meets, you go to a meet and it's like, oh, we're not going to go to that meet because it's all geared towards imported vehicles.
Right.
Or we're not going to go to this meet because it's geared toward all muscle or American or Euro. And, you know, which is cool. You know, I get it. I think that everyone needs to come together, and whether you're you know, an import guy, a Euro guy, a muscle guy, you know, a newer American, you know, Corvettes, whatever, just being able to collaborate and come together and do it together. Obviously, that's not going to be for every show because you want to have a show that's, you know, here and here and here, but we don't, outside of the shows that you do, there isn't really anything out there that, and that's what we've been trying to grow into, but no one really here in Minnesota is doing what you're doing when it comes to bringing everyone together, whether it's exotic, import, muscle, domestic, you know, so.
It's very segregated, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Because those shows, the classic shows, will not allow
Yes.
certain models and makes in. Obviously, if Back to the 50s has a cutoff, which is totally understandable for what they do. But
Well, it's called Back to the 50s.
exactly. So Back to the 50s. And, you know, MSRA treats it as such. But
Yeah.
I feel a lot of the other shows that follow around outside of that and get-togethers also maintain that cutoff.
Yeah.
The same year cutoff, 1965 specifically. But so a guy that comes in with a collector Porsche that's from the 80s, they're like, maybe a different show. Or
Yeah.
they get cut off. Or especially now that you have these Honda Civics and stuff like that are now getting collector plates, they're definitely, people are like, no way. That car's way too new. But if you think about it, they're pretty old now.
Yeah.
There's guys rolling around with really old Hondas now.
Yeah.
I mean, and they're still running. So
Clean
it's
Hondas.
tested. Yeah. And
Yeah.
they put, I get it. Collector cars take a lot of time. I have one in the garage, and it's taken me years to make even presentable. But also, redoing a Honda or, you know, a Toyota, whatever, you know, it takes the same amount of effort to make it right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I believe that. Yeah.
And the old school cats might not see that. Some, I mean, a lot of them do, but there's some that are just still saying no. So that gap needs to be bridged in order for people to come together. And you're doing a real good job with this. Daniel, you're
Yeah,
working
you're
your
doing
tail
great.
off
Yeah.
to make it happen because your show's mixed.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I guess, part of the main thing here. And maybe I'll offer a counter opinion to kind of what you
That's
guys have
good.
voiced.
That's what we're all about.
What I kind of think it's twofold. People go to car shows for two reasons, right? And sometimes one is, you know, greater than the other. They go because of the social aspect, because their friends are going or stuff like that, right? And then, of course, they want to go because they want to see the types of cars that are showing up.
Right.
So, you know, if you take Back to the 50s, for example, when people go, they're just expecting to see older classic cars that are, you know, 1964 or newer.
Yep.
But, you know, I think an event that is good at changing that and kind of, you know, at least blending all the different, like, you know, generations of people and types of cars and stuff is actually Back to the 80s.
Yeah.
And
really,
I think
though.
that this is much more because of the types of cars that fit into that category, right?
Sure.
In the 80s, there are amazing, you know, icons from both the JDM scene, the Euro scene, and American cars as well, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that because of that, it's just way better at kind of drawing in different people from different backgrounds and different generations and all that. I mean, like, there's a lot of people who are starting out and just, you know, getting a $2,000-$3,000 80s car, right, who show up to that. And then there's people who bring in, like, you know, I don't know, some of the DeLoreans, like a Countach, like, you know,
That's pretty awesome.
crazy shit from the 80s just
Yeah.
as well, right? That all come from different backgrounds. And I think that's kind of the key is hosting shows that anyone can feel comfortable at, regardless of what they bring,
Sure.
will bridge that generational divide. And the only thing that does that, unfortunately, because car shows are by nature competitive compared to car meets, is trophies, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of what our strategy has been over the last 4 years of bringing everyone together is, you know, we're at a point where even like Minneapolis Mile this last year, in addition to not only having a top 3 for every single brand, the larger brands that we know we'll see 50, 60 cars of, we break it off between modern and classic. So
That's
like,
good.
you know, Ford, Chevy, Dodge, right? Ones that have been around for, you know, almost a century, you know, stuff like that.
Yep.
New and old
Yeah.
get their own.
Yeah.
Well, and that's
that
good.
makes sense. Yeah.
That's really good. With these shows in particular, people that are going for trophy work, to talk about presentation, because a lot of people show up, you know, they park their car. I'm one of them too, because I have a couple presentation pieces and stuff like that, that accommodate, you know, that, look right for the car or whatnot. But what does it take to present a car at a car show to try to get those trophies?
Yeah. I mean, I think the most interesting thing to start this off with is different, depending on the car show, of course. Let's take one of mine, I guess, where you have at least one trophy for every brand. You know, some brands are just more stacked than others, you know, like Maybe it's a lot harder to get first place in the Honda category than it is, Mitsubishi or Hyundai, and maybe that's just by nature of, the car show going scene versus the track going scene or something like that.
Yeah.
It's well.
No, and that's true. I think that a lot of people come to a show with a track car that has, for example, 700-800 horsepower.
Right.
But then the shell is stripped out and, it doesn't look the prettiest, but the motor is beautiful. There's a difference between
like
a show car. Well, your car is okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
There's a difference between a show car and a track car. And there's a very fine line between a show car and a track car, and that's why I think in for our event that we did, our closer, that's why we also had a trophy for track inspired.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because for us is and that was one of the things that we hear all the time is hey, I had this and this and this done, my whole engine is built, blah 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 blah. But it's like, yeah, your build was awesome. We loved your build.
Right.
It's just all around. It's a track car. It's not a show car.
Right.
And so we wanted to have trophies that, would go out to track inspired vehicles because, they put in just as much work as a guy that's putting together a car that has a stock engine with just everything going on the outside. So, for us, it's just, we want everyone to have a good time. And, and so we opened up a class for that.
That's great.
That's a good idea.
Presentation is key.
It's key.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys this. What are your guys? Because I think everyone here has judged a car show before, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, let me ask, what are your judging criteria that you guys look for? Because I've obviously worked on creating like a solid rubric for this that tries to break it down as analytically as possible. But I'm guessing you guys are a little more, I guess, maybe opinion focused, or
This
you have your
great,
own process.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Why don't you go?
Yeah. I was gonna say definitely like how clean it is for sure, especially if it's like a car show, like Sean said. There's a huge difference between car shows and track cars. Track cars, obviously they're not going to be the cleanest. They're still clean engine wise and everything else, just to make sure like there's no oil leaks or everything else for a track car. But having it super clean for a car show, I think that's one of the things. Like, for example, if even the interior has to be clean. If the interior has some dust in it, or you can tell that the person, the owner hasn't taken care of it, or if it has some rare parts, that's definitely like will score a few points with me. But overall, finding like a car show winner, it's got to be, for me, it's got to be unique. It has to have a few unique parts in it. Maybe even like stuff like they made out of their, in the garage would be like another
Fabricating.
fabricating their own stuff. So clean, custom parts, and just making sure it's just, overall like a really unique vehicle, because, you don't want to see, like I've said time and time again to people, is like, I've seen Evos, I've seen Civics, I've seen Corvettes, and, all of them have, they're really clean, but, what makes it unique, because everyone can do the same thing, but what makes it, the next level.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Sean?
So I'm going to be honest. I've never judged a show.
Okay.
And
what would you look for?
I don't judge my own shows because
That's
I don't
true.
want anyone to think that I'm being biased or anything like that. So, but I mean, if I were to judge a show, obviously it's, there's a creativity aspect of it. Like I said, you have a Honda Civic. Everyone has the same parts. You know what I mean? The build is going to be different, but it's going to be very very similar. So outside of the build itself, it's really creativity. Okay. Do they have knockoff rims on? Do they have a knockoff lip? Do they have this? You know what I mean? Compared to the guy that took time to search the internet to find OE or something that's rare that they have on their car. So, and a lot of the cars out there, it's about individuality. We get a lot of cars that come out that have different kinds of wraps. They have different types of paint jobs. You know, so it's just the creativity of the car is where I'd probably put, for a car show, the creativity of the car on the outside and on the inside, and I guess all around, you know. But then you're also going to have a guy that has an interior of his car done that looks beautiful. The outside is done, but then the engine is stock.
Right.
So, you know.
Keep your hood closed, buddy. Keep it closed.
Keep it closed.
But that, you know, but that's the thing. So, or you'll have a guy that has a built motor
Yeah.
with, you know, a good outside and a stock interior.
Did you see
So
my
it's-
car last year? Because it was pretty much that.
Yeah, you know, and so
Not last year.
So, you know, that's where, you know, you have to take everything into consideration, and that's where it gets really hard. And I think
Yeah.
that's why a lot of
Yeah.
people get upset at shows, is because, you know, they look at their build, and especially when you look at your own build, you know what time went into that build.
Yeah.
So I think that's why a lot of people get upset. But, you know, the people that are judging, they're looking at a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And, you know, you might have something on your car that they didn't see.
Sure.
You know,
Would you prefer that the owner of the car is by their car when when a judge comes by? Do you think that's beneficial, or?
you know, and that depends on how long the show is, because
That's
depending
Stand there
on
for 6 hours.
You know,
This guy has not come
I
by.
think, you know, and I think that mod boards are amazing.
Yeah, it does help.
You know, when you have a good mod board that really goes over the entire vehicle, and even, you know, and I see a lot of mod boards that don't even say how much time they've invested in the vehicle.
Oh boy, I should put that on mine.
You know,
Like,
and-
really, I'd be like 7,000
well,
days.
Some people work slower than others, though.
Well,
so.
and I hate to admit this, but I feel like time isn't necessarily a deciding factor
true.
in quality, right? You
No,
know, you can-
yeah,
Not, I wouldn't say in quality,
because
but
how do you judge somebody's efficiency? Like,
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, there's a certain level of work that I won't do, right? Because I know that I'm better off paying someone else to do it, because their quality
True.
in the finished product will be
Yes.
that much better than what I could possibly ever
Yes.
provide.
And it's not okay. So what's the event that they do at the state fair? It's not Street Heat. It's the big one.
you
The
talking about
O'Reilly's.
Oh, Street
the
Machine
Street
Nationals.
Machine Nationals. Yeah.
So Street Machine Nationals, they do record how much hours were put into the vehicle.
Really?
They do.
Oh.
You know, and some of these guys that, you know, and don't quote me on this, like Dustin Anthony, he won 2 years ago.
Yeah, SEMA Battle of the Builders.
Yeah, so he won that, and when I was watching the videos of that, they explained what went into the build and how many hours went into that build.
It's a beautiful car, too. You're talking about the MR2, right?
No,
No,
it was
this is
it was
the
the
Montevetti.
Lotus. Yeah,
The
Montevetti.
the Lotus.
Lotus, yeah.
I was thinking the guy had the red
Yeah, that's Shane.
Shane.
Yeah.
That was
This
very
is the
cool car.
white
Yeah, so this is that white one
Yeah.
that it was the
Yeah.
Elise.
Oh,
that
yeah,
had
the
Yeah, the wide body
stretched.
one.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So-
My buddy keeps telling me
BMW
about that.
V10,
Yeah. And I guess that's a little bit different, just because those guys, they build cars.
Yeah, and that,
So-
that was also for SEMA, not necessarily the main
Okay.
Street
Yeah.
Machine National show
Yeah.
itself.
Okay.
But
they get credited essentially for the hours and the amount of time they put
yeah.
into it.
Well, because you would think guys that are building cars from the ground up,
Yeah.
they have to be very close in skill set. So hours
Sure.
to them, like hours compared to the people that are in that show are probably going to be close. Compared to someone that, you know, is building a car that has no automotive experience compared to someone that does.
Right.
And it's like, hey, he put 30 hours into this car. It would have only taken me 20, you know, or 2
Right.
hours.
Yeah.
But so that is a good point. But I guess I would just have to say that, you know, every judge is going to look at something different.
Sure.
And, you know, every judge is, you know, like I said, they might miss something. So mod boards,
Key.
if you don't have a mod board and you don't win, you know, maybe that mod board would have helped you, you know. So it's just doing, and that's the thing. If you own the car and you've put a lot of time and effort and and woman hours, whatever, into building something that you love, you want to make sure that you put all the details into a mod board or a mod list, so that way when the judges come around, they know exactly what's done to the car.
I agree.
Don't be vague with what you've done. So
because it's like, I agree with what you said too, because it's kind of like I've seen one car where it's like you can tell a knockoff from like a real authentic part too. So that definitely makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So
would you allow photographers to move the mod boards? Because I
would
keep
say,
seeing them in
for
shots.
photographer wise, I wouldn't. I would ask the owner first, because I've done that at like hot import nights and such.
Sure, just go over and kick the thing over. Like, get that.
Most people that have mod boards though are by their car.
Yeah,
true, valid.
Or they have someone buy their car that is making sure that no one's messing with it.
Yeah,
right. Or you could always just try to place it, respectfully with regards to how a photographer would shoot a dominant side, right?
Sure.
I think that if they saw someone with a big camera shooting their car, moving a mod board, they wouldn't be upset.
Oh yeah,
also true.
So
I wouldn't know, because because that's like, for photographers, that's like their property, because I think for like a more experienced photographer, I think they would be like, I wouldn't want to touch that, just in case.
I would be flattered.
Just in case, I'm not gonna move this, just because, maybe that's how the owner likes how it's set up, because sometimes have some owners, you see like the mirror set up right underneath the car, and they have it like staged in a proper way, and it's like, I'm not gonna touch that.
Yeah.
So,
well, no.
But
I have an issue with like so I have a little like a mod list that goes inside the engine bay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's in every shot that photographers take.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, bad spot for it, because it took a lot of time on my motor. I mean, you guys know, but
they don't place it on your motor,
right? But it's kind of. But I don't want to put it in front of the car. You know what I mean? I don't want to block the car from shots. So it's like, well, how do you do that? I think one event I put it inside I put it actually inside the car, and I had the windows down. So I had gone to Temp Pros and got my windows tinted. So I was like, oh, I have to roll the windows down now. Shout out to Temp Pros. So I put the mod board in the seat, just like the list. And I told judges, hey, go check it out. It's in there. On the little tag on the window. It says, go mod board on passenger seat. But it's like, I feel like it's really hard to get that out of the way of people seeing the whole vision of the car. But I don't know. Just very, very briefly, I'll put in what I look for is, judging-wise, is I look for cleanliness, making sure that they actually took time to prep. But most importantly for me, I look at how is originality, rarity, and also care. Does this person care? Mm-hmm. Do they emotionally care? Is there some sort of attachment to this car? Is this a work of art that they're constantly driving around? Is it a work of art that they're constantly improving? These are very important things to me, because to me, this is an emotional experience. I have been very emotional about my cars in the past. Where I feel like it's an extension of me. It's a piece of art that I have created or driven. And I look at that with the owner, and you can tell. You can tell in their your brief conversations, or you can tell in the way they take care of the car. Mm-hmm. I once gave an award to someone who had a less aggressive Supra than another guy. And it wasn't because his Supra was not as powerful and as beautiful and as blown out as the other guy. It was because he actually cared about it being what it is versus what it could be. He said, no, it was created like this and it needs to be like this. And I looked at that and said, wow, that's a lot of weight. That's a hard decision to make, especially for judging. But you could tell the attention to detail and everything was cleaned, and he cared so much versus look at how big my injectors are. Look at how big this turbo can be. He kept it original as possible, and to me that weighs a lot. How do you feel, Daniel, about that stuff?
Well, the cool thing is the way that I've tried to break this down as non-biased and analytical, factual as possible, basically involves everything you guys have talked about with just one additional category, which is basically just color scheme and theme, which I think is something that can not only...
That's huge.
Yes.
Yeah, it's, not only a big deciding factor, I think, between two equal cars, but even like, the car that you have, on the screen right there is, would that car look as good if, it's gold on the outside, but it was like, bright pink in the engine bay or something like that? Probably not.
Probably not.
And,
That's true.
keeping that theme consistent through the engine bay, the exterior, the interior, and even the trunk, if you have something in there, I think that is arguably one of the most important things, and can honestly, if you do it right, it ties the entire thing to, together. If you don't, I mean, most things probably don't work as well as, let's say, the Volkswagen Harlequin design.
Right. Well, a real Harlequin's a cool thing, but that, we all know how that all went out. If not, you need to look that up on the internet. But no, realistically, you can take a beautiful thing and you can ruin it too.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, there it is.
And people, amazingly want you to respect that. And they get really offended. People get really offended by judges in shows where people aren't respecting quite their work. Maybe they had a different vision and it didn't go there, maybe it did go the way they planned it. But people get really, really mad about it. And they demand respect, especially online, too, because that's a crazy.
You want to know what, though? I guarantee, and you guys cannot deny this, okay? If that was at any car show...
This is a lifted Lamborghini with 20s on it.
And I'm sure that you guys are going to agree with me.
Okay.
This car will get the most pictures taken.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Well, if you're listening to the audio version, what we're looking at on screen is an orange Lamborghini lifted. I don't know how tall is that lifted, about a foot and a half?
No, it looks
Maybe
like
a
2
foot.
feet.
2 feet, maybe, with only like the stock kind of looking wheel size. I don't know. So it looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it probably would get a lot of photos.
But you want to know what, though? Who knows what he was trying to do with this, though?
True.
You want to know why? Because SEMA 2 years ago had a car on display that was in a fire,
Oh, yeah,
but
yeah.
had
that's right.
$30,000 rims on it. And you want to know what? They were a rim company.
Yeah, they were just showing
And
it off.
everyone was saying like, "Oh, he never should have been in SEMA." I was like,
They were
"That's
trashing that car.
That's perfect marketing. Perfect marketing because." People were talking bad about the car, but they were talking about how nice the rims were compared to how bad the car was, and it's the perfect marketing scheme.
I believe it was a burnt down Maybach, too.
Was that what it was? Okay,
Yeah.
so
Which
you know,
have been known to catch on fire.
yeah. So who knows?
But that's, but you know what I mean? They were being out there.
Yeah.
They were trying to stand out, which is key. Which is key at a show.
Yep.
Color scheme is key on standing out. The overall theme is key on standing out. Cleanliness is key. All these things are really, really important of being a show car. A car that's being shown, not a car that's just being brought somewhere to hang out.
Yeah, I agree with that because I think I've gotten a couple people have said to me like, how come, my buddy's ride is really clean, but it's like, dude, I've seen these at like weekly meets.
Right.
I know he cares about it, like what we said too, but I've seen these cars at weekly meets, and it's not a show car like you said. Like what we're looking for is like an actual show car where, some kid can be like some little kids or someone can just be like, whoa, this thing is like super clean. It looks super cool. Because even my wife, she doesn't know like cars from like other cars, but when she sees a cool car, she's like, oh yeah, that's a cool car. That like you said, it's the market too. It reaches out to different markets, and that's what speaks to, just not just us, but to other people too.
Yeah, I'd like to think that people that want to be a part of shows have an understanding of what a show car is compared to what a car that probably shouldn't be in a show is.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'd like to think that. Common sense is only common to the people that have it. But I think that I don't want to contradict myself in a way too, just because, like what you were saying, there's someone, like I met this guy with an 88 CRX, clean, but it was all stock, clean. And have you guys ever seen an 88 CRX with no rust?
Technically, no.
With the paper books from the factory that was thrown.
No.
Okay,
Not that
this kid had that, and I met him at a meet, and he was so proud of his car. He loved his car, and he's like, "I'm not going to change it. It's a classic.
Yeah.
It's but
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about.
but no one cares. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
no, it's like,
yeah.
oh, it's just us. You know what I mean? But to him, he loves his car. He's
Yeah.
passionate about his car, and I don't believe that, you know, people like that should be left out when it comes to shows as well.
There's certain shows that cater to that, and
Yeah.
the JNCC, Japanese Nostalgic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They, man, I went, a Supra MK3 pulled up, which is it's still a cool car. It's not as coveted as the MK4, but it pulled up and it was the cleanest example that I think anybody there had ever seen.
Yeah.
And you're talking about Japanese nostalgic people, a way different approaches, other people seeing it at a regular show. Everyone's jaw went, no way. We're talking even the trunk liner was original, perfect condition. Nothing had been, I was looking at the detail. I'm like, man, you really detailed this trim on here. This is in perfect shape. And he said, I haven't touched it. And I said, you're kidding me. How many miles? I think it was like 26,000 miles.
Well, that's why he didn't have to clean it.
No, it was that good.
Yeah.
Where he was like, this is my favorite car ever. But it was that good of a specimen. And it takes time to find that. And that CRX guy might have looked at it forever. And
Yeah.
But standing out, will it win a car
Yeah.
show for best of show? It depends on the show.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
So you guys put on shows. You put on amazing shows at that too. Really great experiences. The breakdance and stuff.
The breakdance was
the
pretty tight.
shutting down an entire section of Minneapolis to put on a
Downtown Minneapolis.
downtown Minneapolis for a mile of that to put on shows.
that is crazy.
What does it take to enhance the user experience where they just say, God damn.
I'm going to be honest. I don't think anyone does it better than you.
Oh,
Do it.
And that's, I mean, that's just my honest opinion. I mean, it takes a lot to put on a show, but it takes so much more to do what you do when it comes to closing down a whole mile of downtown Minneapolis.
Yep.
Whole parking ramps, getting the police department involved and security. And I mean, how many food trucks did you have at the Minneapolis Mile? You had one every
12.
corner.
Yep.
Yeah.
A dozen food trucks.
You know, so just being able to reach out to these people, coordinating a show that large, it's just, you know, we're not doing any Wise Guys. We're not doing anything at that level. And I think that what we do is already hard. So
Sure.
so there's so much respect. You know, yeah. I mean, you're doing a great job, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, with regards to what goes into it, you know, like any other big event, let's say that happens in downtown Minneapolis, whether it's like the Pride Parade or like the Super Bowl or stuff like that, you know, there's a lot of meetings you have with a lot of different departments in the city as well, whether it's, you know, planning, police, paramedics and health, you know, city works, all the crazy different departments that you work with there. And, you know, beyond that, they always require that you reach out to all the businesses that would be affected by your event. So basically anyone that's on that street that we host on. So,
Yeah.
you know, that was literally 2 full weeks of basically door knocking, trying to talk with like the right people in, you know, every single building on 2nd Avenue South effectively.
It's an unbelievable amount of work that has to go into it.
Yeah, you know, the plus side is, and I'm guessing you guys find this with your events as well, is, you know, to some extent, there are a few things that get easier every year, right? Because it's to some extent the same principle. You just go about executing it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm running into, like even planning Minneapolis Mile 2020 right now is, you know, a lot of it is going to be easier. I already have all the right contact info now to get the event done. So that saves me.
It's a lot of footwork. Man.
Yeah, it saves me 2 weeks of work, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of like an investment in something that I believe is the future, right?
I think you're doing the right thing. I mean, it's in the grand scale of things, you're tying all this together, and that's beautiful.
Yeah. So, you know, events are part scale, right? And I think that's what I do really well is taking events to say like, holy shit, there's a million cars here, even though there aren't, of course.
Right.
And, you know, the overall venue, which I think is arguably the most key feature to a car show.
That's
I
crucial.
agree. I do.
There's a couple great venues, and I've found some amazing places where I'm like, yo, where we've done photo shoots and stuff like that. I'm like, this would make the dopest car show ever. But getting into that space
And then it's denied.
is impossible. Because they're like, no.
Yeah.
And when you're like, but this is going to be this experience. I have this vision and that. And they're like, no. Can we rent it? No, you can't rent it because it's not available. And they have whatever bias it is, you have to respect that from somebody. You can't just do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I come from the aspect of I'm very big on audio and visual experience. I mean, I do things for shows that I try to go above and beyond. And I don't know if you guys have caught any of those things, but I've definitely seen your car displayed on a wall that's bigger than anything there at the thing because it happened to be part of the video that was taken by a videographer that was then projected against a giant building. Because I'm all about that. We can look at cars all day, but if we don't have the right lighting, if we don't have the right sound, if we don't have things that enhance the user experience, that don't make people go, man, this is the coolest place I've ever been in my life,
Yeah.
then we're not doing it right.
Yep.
Because I want people to say like, damn, who is this DJ? Or, oh my God, dude, yo, you see there was breakdancers inside? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I want them to go,
Yeah.
because they go to concerts and raves and, stuff like that for a reason.
Yeah. So the DJ that we had for our May event, we actually flew him out from California.
Getting it.
Whoa.
Getting it. That's what I'm talking about.
He's done EDC.
Cool. Very cool.
He's won scratch battle competitions.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he doesn't DJ. He still DJs off of turntables. Obviously, he's working off of a laptop, but everything is done off of turntables. He's won. He tours all over the world.
Dope.
Tight.
So it's for us. It's just every time you do something, it has to change a little bit because otherwise it's like, oh, it's the same thing, just a different place, or it's the same thing, just a different time. And that's where it comes like, you got to evolve. It's all about getting bigger and bigger and bigger and, doing things bigger. So, we try to, do what we can to give the people, whether their car is in the show or they're a spectator, we try to give them an experience.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's about. They want an experience, and they want a good experience.
Because even if they're in the show or not in the show, that's what we're putting out there.
Yeah.
And we've been trapped in this, not trapped, but we've used the same venue a lot.
Yeah.
But that venue, though, it doesn't really get old.
But
It's
have you noticed what we've done with that? Every single show, something is added on or different.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We constantly are doing, check this out. And people go, oh, I never seen that before. Or, oh, hey, crazy. Oh, all of a sudden beer's outside. All of a sudden, oh, this is there. Oh, cool. Like you're doing that because you're making them go, I've been here, but something's different.
Something's different.
Yeah.
Experience is different.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can use with your car club and doing your shows, use the same venue, but keep it interesting. And that's key.
Yeah.
Make people say, God damn.
Yeah.
So that's a beautiful thing. All right. But at these shows, we have a lot of problems. And I want to go through some of the issues that happen that especially as people that put on shows have to deal with users of the show or the people that are attending or whatnot. First of all, people that have giant keys sticking off their side, showing off their flight tags or anything like that, and we call that keyed to success. Like, what problems are you guys seeing at shows?
Is that the camera that's actually like videoing us?
That's the wide shot.
Okay. So
Oh, here we go.
Oh,
He's getting up.
So pretend that this is the car.
Okay.
When I go and I look at a car, this is me. I have everything. I pull everything back and I'm like this. Oh, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So I'm holding everything back and I'm leaning over like this. And this is how I look in the windows. This is how I look over the engine bay. This is how I'm coming around cars like this. I try my best to stay as far away from the car as I can and with still being able to see everything that I can see. And that's, respect, because like I said, a lot of people put so much time and effort into wrapping their car or getting a new paint job or, just really anything that they're doing to have like a lanyard rubbing up against the car or, like a zipper from a sweater rubbing up against the car. So that's how I approach a car when I'm looking at it.
Keep your distance, one.
Keeping everything in your pockets.
Yes.
That was a perfect example of car show etiquette.
No, that's
Even though I had to stick my butt out a little bit, but
people don't. But people don't know that. Though.
yes, no, I agree. Yeah,
and even if you, but go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, but people don't know. But I think for car shows, if you're expecting your car show to be a car show where there's a huge crowd, I think you gotta have some expectation that people are going to touch it.
Yes.
Things
I do
are
agree.
going to scratch.
Yes.
However, with regards to that, I think that there's also a sort of safety and numbers standpoint where, if I'm parked on the Mitsubishi block with a bunch of Evo guys, if, they're going to go and get food or something and I'm staying there, stand and watch, like, I'll call out anyone that's like, getting too handsy with the car or something like that.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Oh, get off the car.
Yeah, watch your buddy's back and if not, watch anyone else's back too.
I've had some discussions with like kids.
Oh, that comes up all the time.
Yeah, but where you're like, hey, buddy, I know you like the car a lot. Hey, well, check this out. So what we want to do is, and you just kind of give them like a brief rundown because if nobody else is really going to tell them that maybe. They have to get that firsthand. Like, what's your name? And try to like teach them. Yeah, so don't, like, your ice cream cone can't sit on the car, or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that car enthusiasts that bring their kids to shows do a good job with making sure that their kids aren't doing anything, disrespectful to other people's vehicles. I think that it's more the people outside of the car community that come as spectators.
Absolutely.
And they don't, they don't know or understand etiquette, So maybe we need to do a better job
Etiquette boards
as
and the entrance.
There you go.
Boards at the entrances and MCs so that, hey, we want everyone to have a good time. People that are here, if you have kids, just please make sure that, you monitor them so that way they're not touching the vehicles because, a lot of work and time and money goes into the, so, and to be honest with you, I've never heard an announcement like that. And because you brought this up, that's what, made me think of that. So maybe we can do a better job at, having signs out or getting on the microphone and saying, hey,
welcome to the party. Don't touch any cars. No, but these
scratch
are
it, you buy it.
Because I remember we were at a show and magically, Jordan's car got scratched, that vial side.
Yep.
And
I'll take credit. That was actually my
that was
2016 closer at DCTC.
oh yeah. That's right.
It supposedly was a vengeance scratch. Someone purposefully wanted to hurt
It's the
him.
worst. Well, but that happens too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was clearly a vengeance scratch. Somebody got it it was like up on the hood in the front.
Yeah.
And it was just like, ooh, we're all like, oh, but you watch his reaction? That was his pride and joy. And I was sitting there and I was like, okay, he's gonna blow up, because he was consuming him.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, wow. Yeah, it definitely wasn't like a walk by. I mean, I carry keys off to my side and I'm real conscious when I'm on shows, obviously, because I wouldn't want that to happen to me.
Yeah.
But don't have your keys hanging out where they can flop around. If they are, find a solution to either keep it where the keys are in, metal buttons and stuff like that are on your clothing. Keep that stuff tucked away. These are all key. Another thing that I see all the time is when photographers who are usually hired by the show, not all of them, of course, but but in general, they're out there to do photos. You get people that are all up in that shot. All up in that shot. They're like just standing there and the photographer has to wait and he's waiting. And you do night shots, so that's got to be harder because you got to walk all the way around with this light. But like what the etiquette that it takes.
I think that if you're a photographer and you're hired by the show, I think that it is okay for you to go up to people that are standing in front of a car that you want to shoot and ask them to, respectfully ask them to move. And, not just say, hey, can you get out of the way? But it's just like, hey, I'm a photographer for the show. I'm here to shoot the cars. Is it possible for you to, just move a little bit so that way I can get some shots and then you can go back to what you're doing,
Yeah.
I don't think that there's anything wrong with that at all.
Mm-hmm. That's nice.
That's good. But you occasionally get people that will just seriously walk in.
Oh yeah, I mean, they're not.
Just,
yeah,
maybe they don't
that's
notice.
Gonna be a given, though.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen some amazing. I'm like, there was this one photo. It was the most beautiful photo I've ever seen of my car, and I was like, oh my god, this is great. Except for that one guy that's standing there with his head into the thing. It was like, oh no. But I'm no Photoshop expert, so I can't. I'm really good with PowerPoint, though. Clearly. Anyway, but yeah. So let's see. We were talking about judging, but I just want to. What happens when people are expecting to win an award and they don't win an award at your shows? What happens from that? Have you heard what they say? Not even at the show.
We don't hear what they say. We see what they say.
Yes, exactly.
And that's the thing. So people that don't win awards, they don't come up to the judges or they don't come up to the event holders and be like, hey, I'd like to ask you a question. What were the reasons behind you picking his car over mine? Sure. We never get that.
Yep.
No.
What we get is the next day or that night, oh, this is bull crap.
Judges suck.
The judges suck. They're biased. They don't like this. They didn't like blah, blah, blah. It's like goes on and on and on. It's like Charlie Brown where you hear the judges like, wah, wah, wah,
Oh, yeah.
So it's if you're unhappy with the way the trophies were handed out or what had happened, the outcome of the event, come up to us. We'd be more than happy to go over, like, we'll grab the judges and we'd be more than happy to go over why that car won over yours. It's harder for us to communicate with you on Facebook.
Yeah.
Because we can't get all the judges together at one time on Facebook. And it has nothing to do against the person that didn't win. It's like, there's no hard feelings. Like, you didn't win. It is what it is. Come and talk to us and we'll tell you why. Right. And we get, it's that's just what happens. That's just the
nature of the beast.
Why I'm happy, I guess, that we have such a large team of judges, because it gets to a point where everyone has only a few awards that they choose, but they have to look over a lot of cars. Yeah. And so that way it's like, oh, you didn't get in top 3 in this class. I can point you directly to the judge who judged that class, and you can ask them directly why. Because, more often than not, they definitely remember your car. And, maybe the competition was just that stiff that you just, you almost got third, but you were just, that far behind.
That's a good way to, that's a good way to be, is positive, like, you're almost there. It's going to be.
There. Yeah.
Well, constructive criticism is certainly the best.
Yeah. And I think it's.
Otherwise, they decimate you on the internet. Yeah. They will destroy everything about you.
Last year was not this last car scene, but the car scene before was like kind of my first time really getting involved in the show aspect of it with putting my car in actual shows. This year was a learning curve for us hosting shows, because our first show, we had our judges judging everything and then coming together and figuring out which cars won what. And it literally took them half the show to figure out who wanted to win what. And that was a huge learning experience for us. So for our closer, I was like, you know what? You're judging the imports, you're judging the Euro, that way, or you have two judges judging the Euros, because, one judge might see something that the other judge didn't.
Yeah.
But you have certain judges judging one area of the show, whether it's Euro, import, classic, exotic, whatever. That way, if someone has a problem, like in the import, it's like, oh, why didn't we win? It's like, I don't have to pull everyone here. All I got to do is pull the 2 judges that did the imports now. But it makes it easier to come together, and it's like the 2 judges like, hey, this had this, this had that. And like I said, sometimes one judge might see something that a different judge didn't see. It's like, well, didn't you see this? It's like, no, I didn't see that. And then they can reconvene and be like,
Have
okay,
you seen this? Come over and look at this thing.
It's not that they didn't look at a car. It's just they might have missed something on a car that they saw. They overlooked something on a car. So, we learned from our first show, and now we have certain judges judging only the Euros, and certain judges only judging the imports, and so on. So that way, it's just easier for everyone to come to an agreement on who's going to win and who's, not.
Yeah.
And I want to add to like what Daniel was saying about the constructive criticism about like judging cars. I think the car community can really grow from that too, especially like for someone that just literally got into a year or 2 into the car community. It's you can't just jump in like buy a car, because I know that's happened a few times where I think someone local bought a car from someone that was local, got into a show, won that trophy. And then it was just kind of like everyone's like, okay, this guy
just
literally bought this car from someone.
Hence, you don't buy cars locally.
Exactly. But that's the thing too. It's kind of like for that, that aside, that constructive criticism is like really important just for the car community to grow, but not just that, but it's for yourself to grow, see what you can do different, just to be unique too. From
me to anybody else out there. There is a reason why you didn't win a trophy, but it's not a bad reason. There's room for improvement. You can always do something greater. I am a perfect example of that. I had to go to the next level. Why, buddy? I had to get the wheels changed. I had to do this, detail that, work on the interior. There's so many things. You might not get that trophy, but if you continually work on it and move forward, that trophy is in that future, and now I have some pretty good ones. I got a trophy at Mini Yoda, which is the Toyota meet. I beat Supras. Like, how does that happen? That doesn't happen. Except for when they say, hey, I saw where it was and where it's going, and I saw what you're doing, and you're taking a big leaps and bounds. So I lost a lot of trophies, or not lost. I just didn't get trophies because I wasn't there yet. So there's room for improvement.
I think without constructive criticism, you're not going to know what to improve on. And if you don't know what to improve on, you're never going to get to that level where you're going to start winning. So, and your friends aren't your friends aren't the ones to ask. Because your friends are always going to tell you what you want to hear. So it's...
They do, though.
Yes.
I said, what color should I wrap the car? And everybody's like, Nardo gray. And I come out and it's brown. Like, screw you guys, man. Everybody's Nardo gray.
So it's, there's a difference between criticism and constructive criticism. And constructive criticism is good because,
it is.
If you're not told what you need to work on, you're not going to work on it. Especially if you want to travel out of state for shows. I'd hate to go to Chicago and be like, they didn't tell you to work on that?
Oh, my God. I won't even get into those shows.
I do have one counterpoint to that, though, and I think that's more... In addition to constructive criticism being one route you can go, I think the other one is based on the principle of monkey see, monkey do. You see a show car that keeps winning awards, and this happened. Let's say I got my Evo 4 years ago, and it was more or less stock, or at least stock looking, even though it had some decent power. And over the last 4 years, right, I've kind of learned both from SEMA and local shows to understand this is what a top of the line, well modded car/track car looks like. And that's basically what has completely inspired and driven the route that I went with my car.
It's beautiful too. It's a very capable, beautiful car.
Before you flip it, I would like to say too, network.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If you're at a show and someone has the same car as you, and you're looking at his build and what he's done and what, find the owner. Talk to him.
I agree.
Because the thing is there's so many times that he might have very good insights, like, oh, you want to go this route with your build, you want to go this route with the way you want to set your car up, offsets, just really anything with your car. Those are the perfect people to talk to. So, and I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of people will come up to me and be like, "Oh, Sean, people that don't be scared to go talk to these people
Yeah.
because they want to help you."
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
So
Meets or car shows.
Yes.
Go
Yep.
talk to them.
go talk to them.
Talk to
Network.
people, not internet
Network.
people.
Shake
Yeah.
some hands.
Yeah.
Okay, so another issue with events, the way people leave events. This is everybody knows the Mustang thing. This is unfortunately is a vile side. RX-7 is one of the cars that was
Han.
used for Fast and it was. They made a few of them, but there's these are pretty rare. So this car obviously received some damage because it was like, look what I could do with this car, and it was. I mean, I'm looking at the road like it's a little wet.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it's rear-wheel drive.
And it's I mean, this is potentially a catastrophic situation. But even when it's dry, everybody knows about the Mustang
Yep.
and the Mustangs that run into people, and that's how it got its name because they're very tail happy. But just remember, smoke show at the end of leaving an event, unless it's set up for it and it's in. Expected or not expected. The word I'm looking for is part of the show.
Yeah.
Don't do it because, especially if there's houses around and all that stuff, it's not healthy for the clubs to see that, or the promoters. It's not healthy unless they've pre-set that up.
Yeah.
Although I will say there was one event this year that did do all the regulations and permitting, and if you didn't get a chance to see Street Lust, it was greatest situation I've ever been in my life at a show. It was amazing because they actually permitted for drifting in Minneapolis. I can't get into it again. We already talked about it last time. Okay. So anyway, we are getting close to the end. I just want to say, if you haven't gone to drivecartel.com, stop over there. It's a beautiful place. You find some cool clothing. They help put this show out, so it's a beautiful thing. They also have these coilover covers. You have you guys looked at those at all?
Right here.
Yeah. Have you guys seen these? You checked them out beforehand?
Oh, yeah.
Pretty awesome things. Definitely get them if you're running in coilovers in the winter. It keeps your stuff from locking up. Beautiful like that. Because we got to get going here, what I want to do is get everybody's Instagrams and how we can see you if you want to be seen on Facebook or Instagram. Sean, what's your Instagram?
It is Wise Guys Culture.
Wise Guys Culture.
Wise Guys Culture.
Daniel, what's the best way to see you?
Yeah, for the Minnesota Car Enthusiast Club, follow at the MNCEC. And for Carmunity, follow Carmunity.io across any social media as well.
Awesome. How do we find you?
Just go Boost Elite Media, and you'll find me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, Fabs, right? You know the EFabs. You know the owner of that.
Oh man, yeah.
I heard about
I heard
that.
he's
Wonderful.
a crazy guy.
Yeah, he's pretty crazy,
Awesome.
but I heard he's pretty busy.
He's pretty busy.
His work is top notch, though.
Top-notch work.
He's trying to get out there.
Yeah, man. That dude's really putting out some great quality stuff. I'm going to put a link there, too, for that. Also, Luxury Missile, that's me with the weird stuff that I do. But I want to thank everybody for coming out.
Yeah.
To me, this is a big part of doing something different while we worry about our cars freezing fluids in the garage. But this is something for us to have some fun with, and you'll see more of it. So I want to thank you guys and for coming out.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah,
on,
thanks
man.
for hosting.
Yeah, anytime.
Bye.